Cold water, clear mind, healing PTSD one swim at a time. This is Once a Warrior, Life Beyond the Uniform. In this episode, we meet Anthony McToal, known across Northern Ireland as the Cold Water Warrior, a Royal Irish veteran who faced debilitating PTSD after Afghanistan. Anthony found healing where many wouldn't dare go, the freezing waters of Ballygally Beach. 300 days of sea swims, one mission, mental health awareness. Hear how discipline, discomfort, and cold water saved his life and inspired a movement. David Johnson, Veterans Commissioner for Northern Ireland, and welcome to another one of our podcasts, Once a Warrior, Life Beyond the Uniform. Delighted today to be joined by Royal Irish Regiment veteran, Anthony McToal, aka Cold Water Warrior. So, Anthony, absolutely delighted to have you here today. Thanks for joining us.
Problem. Nice to be here.
Even put on the old regimental tie today, seeing we're in RHQ and obviously serve with the Royal Irish. So, how are you keeping?
Yeah, all's sort of going good at the minute. Yeah, it's good to be here for a start, obviously. And it's nice to be included and stuff like this. So
yeah. No, I've been looking forward to this one for not just the fact you were a fellow Royal Irish Regiment soldier, but your cold water experience, which is something I have a degree of interest in. So I'm looking forward to getting on to that. But you've had a very interesting life for someone still quite young. You've been through some big experiences, some challenges, and I think it's going to be very interesting to unpack that and give you an opportunity to share your journey, your story, warts and all, so to speak. But then being able to draw out the positives, because I think it's important that right now you're actually contributing and helping other people, other veterans, through some of their challenges. And do you find that rewarding? Let's even just start there in terms of where you are now in your life. Do you feel contributing?
I do find it. I find it rewarding. I find it challenging as well to go through and sort of try and understand where they're coming from, because a lot of people's experiences are different. Obviously, everybody categorizes things differently as well. So it is challenging, but at the same time, it's very rewarding to get them signposted and on to where they need to be then, and watch them grow as such.
Yeah, I've seen some of your stuff online, and I'm really impressed with what you're doing now and how you're helping people. That's why we're really looking forward to having you on. This podcast is all about not just the service part, that Once a Warrior, but it's also life beyond the uniform, and that is different for many veterans.
Yeah.
But for many, if you like, staying involved in the space and helping others, it was so important, and as you say, rewarding.
Yeah.
Which is brilliant. So take us back to the sort of the start, Anthony. Lauren direction is where you're from.
Yeah, I don't hold it against me. I'm from Lauren.
Yeah, these jokes about Lauren, but leave that for another day.
So born and bred in Lauren. Left obviously at sort of 17, coming 18. My mum signed the paperwork for me to obviously join up to the military. Spent my 18th birthday in ITC Carrick doing my training. And then by my 19th birthday, I was deployed on tour. So yeah, really young guy coming through.
Just shit in.
Yeah, baptism of fire, as I sort of like to call it. It was just going from a kid straight into an adult in a very, very quick space of time. But yeah, it was an experience that I probably wouldn't change in any which way either.
Yeah. So obviously, you've had as we'll get into, you've had a challenging sort of military experience.
Yeah.
You've been through a lot, but looking back now, you're kind of satisfied that you made the right decision for you at the time. Was there anything particular that sort of said, right, I want to go military? Did you have any relatives in the military, friends? What was it that took you that route?
Yeah, I remember watching a lot of stuff to do with what was going on at the time. Like obviously came from like young age, seeing 9/11 and all that sort of stuff, and then progressing from that into Afghanistan and in places like that, and felt like I could sort of maybe watching it all. I sort of felt like I could maybe make a difference if I was there. I don't know why, but there was like that feeling that I should do that. As well, I had sort of like that wasn't really a great sort of family circle either. So I was looking at sort of family aspect from the military as well. I think of the brotherhood and like a close knit sort of community of people that you could feel a part of, if that makes sense. So well, like whenever I left, as I say, I was 17. And I was just looking somewhere to call home, if that made sense.
Did you find that well, did you discover that? Did you feel as if
Whenever I
by
got the
the end?
battalion, whenever I got the battalion I did in training, I was, as you probably know, the Royal Irish didn't have their own training platoons
Yeah.
as such, so you were just sort of threw into one of the jock platoons or Scots platoons or
That
whatever
were the
it's
days
based.
of ICT at Catterick. That's
Yeah,
it. So yeah, we used to be in sort of Depot Ballymena and
yeah.
Ballygally.
After,
But
yeah,
then
yeah,
I remember then they sent the ICT Catterick was kind of the new craze.
yeah,
Every so often someone reinvents the wheel,
yeah,
but
yeah,
with a different and I suppose better way of training. But it did take away from that regimental,
yeah,
family. You're joining, this cap badge
yeah, yeah.
to then just be this mixture
I think
of
it was good
cap
for
badges.
the regiment in a way too, though, because as much as we didn't have that group of just all Royal Irish, you were being trained by Scots corporals as well. So for you to actually look in any way good, you had to really perform, and
Yeah.
our guys obviously tried their best to do that because you were being judged not only just from a corporal down to a recruit, you were being judged from a corporal down to recruit to the Irish recruit.
Yeah.
So there was
Yeah.
that sort
Yeah.
of work a bit harder.
A
Do
bit
you
of
know what I mean?
regimental pride would
Yeah,
would
yeah,
come in, not
yeah,
letting the regiment down.
yeah,
And
100%. Yeah.
yeah, okay. Listen, through your training, any big standout moments, any times when you thought, "What have I done? This is too tough," or did you embrace the pain that
I was
inevitably comes through training?
I was a bit stubborn, to be honest. I came from a background, as I said, it wasn't very close knit family wise. So a lot of the people had tried to put doubt in of saying like, see in a couple of weeks, see in 6 weeks, like to try and put you off
That's a
in a way.
motivator for you.
So my motivation was, no, you won't. I'm going to push through this, and then I sort of remember sort of like telling myself every evening, how many of your friends back home could do what you done today, and if it felt good, then it was just give it another day, keep going. Do you
Brilliant.
know what I mean?
That's a great mindset and a great experience. And it's that day upon day becomes weeks, weeks become months, and
Yep.
before you know it, you're
Stop.
qualified trained soldier. It's interesting that you said that sort of September the 11th and all of that kind of feeling you can make a difference, because it's intriguing that it's usually at a time of war or conflict is when recruiting in the British Army goes through the roof.
Yeah, yeah.
You're thinking some ways would be the opposite. Whenever you see people maybe losing their life in combat, it would put people off. But I think there's that something. I think it's a human nature as well as probably installed in sort of the entity of you know GB and Ireland as a whole, North and South. The Fighting Irish,
Yeah.
something in DNA that at a time of crisis, time of conflict, then the volunteer hand goes up and people want to join up and play their part. So you're conscious that was very much something that spurred you on.
Yeah, definitely. I remember the gut feeling, obviously, watching something like that, and then the same with the London bombing that time. I remember just having this like real gut wrenching, like I don't want to say hate, but like a I want to go and teach them not to do that to the people that are from my area. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then obviously being so young as well, um, it was like the want to fight or the want to go and see what it was all about. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like watching on the guys in the uniforms and all the kit on, and you were like, if I could have made it that far, then I might be able to actually make a difference with my mindset. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And how did you feel then passing out Parade Square?
I felt brilliant. I was tired, but I felt brilliant. It was a real personal achievement to make it through the whole way, and like I didn't make it all through in plain sailing either. I actually got back squatted 4 weeks for going AWOL about halfway through because I met some females from Edinburgh and decided they wanted to drink for 9 days and then come back, and for that reason was put back a couple of weeks. And so it wasn't always plain sailing. I was quite
I'll not ask if it was worth it or not.
Oh, it was brilliant. I was,
That's for a different podcast,
but
possibly.
no, it was.
But
I was always a bit of a character. I didn't always do the thing the right way.
yeah.
But I always made it to the end of it, which was the
Well, you
main.
give it another chance.
Yeah.
You take your medicine,
Oh
take
yeah.
the rules, take your medicine,
Yeah.
and move on.
But
Okay.
not everybody makes it through the big tech. You have to play the game, and sometimes playing the game is doing the silly thing too.
Yeah. I think that's all part of learning, as well, and maturing. You say you join very young.
Yeah.
I think sometimes people forget that. A lot of people do come right out of school, they've come from a home environment, find themselves in the military environment, and they haven't really had a chance to mature.
No.
And therefore they do maybe make silly decisions or
Yeah.
not the right decision in certain circumstances.
Even in
That's
regiment, you
expected.
find it too. Like there's don't be going out and getting drunk the night 'cause we've got something to do tomorrow.
Yeah.
And boys still do because it's fun.
But it's the same. It's human nature.
Yeah.
Because I know sometimes people look at the military and those maybe stigmatize the military about maybe drinking culture and personally I'm a teetotaler,
Yeah.
so I never to touch alcohol.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was involved in football. I've actually played for Lawrence, believe it or not, in a time. But it's exactly the same with high level professional football.
Yeah.
You read the stories, autobiographies, the Manchester United teams that were winning leagues and European Cups. But big game tomorrow night, lads don't begin out, and half the boys that go out in the town. That's not unique to the military.
No, definitely not. It's as much as it's like don't do the thing. Even doing the thing if it's not drinking, say it's like just going out and staying out late and coming back again, and it wasn't always drinking, I suppose, but it was just building that. I even built character and friendship amongst the boys whenever they knew they were meant to be just sort of towing the line, and sometimes they didn't. Do you know what I mean?
Well, Roy Keane, I digress slightly, but Roy Keane tells a story as manager of Sunderland that he was sitting there with his coaching staff and he told the players, right, you can go out, but you got to, I think from memory, say it was 11 o'clock. You've got to get back in for 11 o'clock. And at about 5 to 11, the whole team come home into the hotel. And he turned to his coach and said, we're going to win nothing with this team. The coach was like, what do you mean? They've obeyed you. They've all come back at 11 o'clock. He says, you don't win things with people who obey the rules. That was his reaction. He literally, went, we're going to win nothing with these guys. So it was either Ipswich or Sunderland, whoever one it was. But certainly that was an interesting insight into elite performers.
Oh, 100%.
And again, in the military, you're getting into combat. That's an elite experience, elite training. And therefore you're going to have the things that go with that potentially. So okay, so you finished training. When did you come out of pass off the period square?
The month will completely elude me.
Or even the year.
So I went into trade in 2009 in the middle of the year, so it would have just the start of 2010 or just the end of 2009 it would have been.
Okay. And then quite quickly after
so
comes
straight after
Afghanistan.
Was pre-deployment training. So I went from training to another set of training.
So literally finish your recruits course, pass out. And how long then were you in pre-deployment training? Within weeks?
There was one exercise before, and then I think it went straight into pre-deployment training. So it was like just rapid straight through here.
Okay.
So
what was your feelings? What was your emotions like around that? Because this was Herrick 13, so there'd obviously been the regiment had been out there before. I'm sure those doing the training were coming back with stories of what Afghanistan was like. What was going through your mind as a young soldier?
To be totally honest, I was absolutely myself because obviously I was so young when I was whenever I first joined the regiment. I was meeting guys that had been on Herrick 8, and then they were telling me through certain, not the same as any soldier, you don't divulge too much information into what you're about to see, but you do get broad overlooks of what's coming. And I was speaking to them guys, and they were telling that especially their previous tour was singing, and it was again kinetic, and there was a lot of like IEDs and things like that they had sort of been discussing. And whenever I was joining, I never thought too much about them types of things. It was I expected it to be a bit like the older wars, where it was two lines of people with guns, and I didn't expect all the other things that are thrown into the mix. So
things outside your control. So where like sometimes there was a time when military, as you say, line up, look at each other and get on with it. So walk towards each other and end up
the guerrilla warfare side of it as such.
Yeah,
I was
yeah.
I was unaware of. So it was. I sort of expect that all wars to be fought in uniform, standing against each other. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No,
Whereas
that's a
it's not
fair
the
one.
case.
That's would be a perception. So okay, so you get your deployment, then training, and then out you go. So when did you deploy? Can you remember when you actually deployed?
Um, that's a good question. Like 13, so I think it was. I would have to look the date up.
2010,
I
no?
think so. Yeah, yeah.
2010.
2010. So it was classed. I think it was classed as a winter tour, even though whenever we
Yes.
got there it was warm, and then
Yeah.
it was cold and wet, and then it was warm again as we were leaving.
So
So
digressing slightly, obviously my background's was officer in what is now two Royal Irish.
yeah,
So I know that we had a number of soldiers that backfilled
yeah,
one Royal Irish in 2010 and Herrick 13. You probably come across some of the guys
yeah,
in two Irish.
yeah.
I'm not sure whether they may have just went in as individual backfill into any gaps that the
Yeah,
first
so
battalion had. So
there
did you come
was,
across some of the?
yeah, like even in my checkpoint, there was guys from two Royal Irish that were,
Okay.
the guy in the bed space beside me was from two Royal
Right.
Irish, you know,
Okay.
it was, just, they just sort of spelled through exactly where they were needed, and they all seemed to gel and work really well together, like,
Was there
so.
any apprehension, or perhaps you weren't in too long, but was there any apprehension the fact that they were inverted commas only reservists and you were a full-time soldier? Did that
No, not
sort of
really,
ease
no,
any?
like, there was obviously the carry on and the banter, which was always there between two Royal Irish and one Royal Irish. You had your stabs and your, all the other
Yeah,
nicknames
yeah,
that were
yeah.
passed out amongst, but, yeah, there was no like, oh my God, these guys are too Irish, they're not going to be able to do the same. That was never there. The guys mucked in and done their job, and if they were asked to do even extras, there would have been a hand went up from everybody. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? Just to
yeah.
get the job done, and
And you found their skills were up to scratch.
100%. Because it's not like they were just literally scooped off the street and sent to us. They were put through their own training,
Yeah,
and then
yeah,
had to influx into, like, even in Afghan, before you hit the ground, you're doing a week's training before you go there.
yeah.
You know,
Well,
so it's,
the interesting thing about Two Royal Irish is it all probably changed 2003, because then there was about 38 odd mobilised to go in 2003 for the warfighting phase.
yeah,
So some went to backfill one Royal Irish,
yeah.
others became the defence platoon at brigade headquarters, 16th Air Assault Brigade. My own brother actually was there. He had been 2nd Battalion, then when it merged into 1st Battalion about 92, 93 from memory before your time.
Yeah.
He then joined the reserve,
Okay.
but then gone through Chilwell. Some of the one Royal Irish guys spotted him, and it was like, "Oh, John Day, come on!" And so he went into B Company. Then Mike Murdoch was his OC, so he ended up doing 2003 in the warfighting phase, back in one of the platoons.
Yeah.
Which is a bit ironic, but yeah. So that you guys who'd been to Iraq, I was there in '04 with another sort of 30 odd soldiers. So and then some had done 2008. So by the time 2010 came around, a lot of our guys had done a tour of Iraq, tour of Afghanistan, and then were maybe back for another tour.
Yeah.
So their skills would have been pretty
Yeah.
decent
Oh, they were on
by that
point.
point.
Yeah.
And so it's good to hear that sort of that seamless integration, because that's what the whole concept is. You've got your regular battalion, but where there are gaps, then you bring in the reserve to fill. So in your estimation, that certainly worked.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And like a lot of the guys built a bond with the guys over that time as well. Like, as you said, there was ones that had been and done stuff, but there was also new ones coming through as well that were bumping into guys from maybe the 1st Battalion that had done more than one tour as well, and they were like, sort of like keeping them right, and it was the same from like some of the guys from two Royal Irish that had been there maybe, as you say, on previous tours, and maybe bumping into a new guy from the 1st Battalion,
Yeah.
because you don't always just make friends with your own, like your
That's
own
right.
1st or 2nd. You get, so whoever you fall in with while
Yeah.
you're there. So
Absolutely.
yeah, there was like some real good bonds just being made by people that, obviously you wouldn't expect, because you'd expect, I expected like one to stick with one and two to stick with two, and that's not how it works, because obviously you're getting mixed up and broke down and put through
Yeah,
places. So
yeah. No, it's a fair observation. So you've gone youngster, you leave Lauren, do your training very quickly, pre-deployment, bang, you find yourself out in Afghanistan. I know Harry 13 is obviously very well known as a particularly challenging tour. No doubt some many experiences and situations that you find yourself in. I mean, Are you able to sort of to speak to that? Was it a shock to the system? Some of the things that you saw were involved in.
Yeah,
How
yeah.
did you treat that as a young soldier?
It was all. I think the whole thing was like a massive game inside like a young man's head, because like even the likes of going over the wire, coming out of Bastion with a rifle pointed down on a helicopter, and knowing that the minute the wheels touch back down, that you're no longer safe. You're now playing a game with people that are intent on maybe hurting you or killing you, and to have that in your head at all times for 6.5 months, depending on an hour, was a grueling thing to have to think. But I think that's from the fact that you're wet behind the ears and nobody's shot a bullet at you yet. And then obviously once you get onto the ground and you start hearing or watching the people disappear, as you know something's about to happen, or the first initial crack of a bullet going over the top of your head, it sort of molds you as you go. So for me, even like the first week, even the ICOM scanners of them crying out, "Oh no, the Irish are back," because obviously we had a reputation in certain places that we did strike fear into most of the people that we were dealing with, even if they were hardened terrorists or freedom fighter. Every man's terrorist, no man's freedom fighter, but in their country. But they already had a reputation of us, and we had our own interpretation of them. So like even in the first week, we were sent into areas that the previous units wouldn't go into, or tried to steer clear of. That we knew the minute our feet were to touch the ground that we were about to get a heavy conflict. In our bosses' minds, we were there to clear the area. As much as that came at a price every single time of pushing and pushing and pushing for 7 months. That was their intention, was to clear the area and keep us moving forward. So with that being the intention, the days got longer and stronger every single time you pushed an area that there was no conflict for 7 months previous. Like one of the places I remember being pushed into was a place called the Red Wedge, because it was nobody really went there. My regiment done one of the first air assaults in a long, long time, where they were lifted by helicopter and dropped in the middle of the night. And then whenever the enemy woke up, we were already in their territory. And, when trying to take a base somewhere where you're not really wanted, and,
Can you remember the first time you were in a combat scenario of rounds and
first contact.
injured? Yeah.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it was in a place called, I will never forget the name of the postcode of the place. Even a place called Lima 5 X-ray, which was one of the areas where we've been told that just don't go in there if you can avoid it. Don't go in there because it's heavily guarded and they don't want you in there. So my sergeant at the time was I think he's an MP now. His name was Ryan McCready, and he wanted to sort of push that area then, because obviously the previous ones had said not to go there. So I remember us getting into it in like the middle of the night, because obviously the majority of them will be sleeping at that stage, and just walking about until the sun come up. And obviously whenever the sun come up, the ACOM scanner started that we were in here, and I can remember walking around and people being about, coming out, just getting ready to start their day. And then the atmospherics completely changing to the point where everybody started going away and walking away. And I remember what some of the older soldiers saying, like, it's about to go down, like it's about to start.
They just knew.
They knew, but I was so young and it was my first one, so I was like completely unaware. I thought maybe they'd somewhere all to be at this certain time. And then I can remember obviously the initial crack of the first sort of couple of rounds coming over top, and sort of like not freezing up but stopping and knowing what to do, but just it took like a split second for all the training to kick in and the body to take over, because the mind was still in absolute panic of, right, this is it, it's about to go down, And then I think that first contact was in the first sort of week, and one of the guys we were with ended up getting tagged on that contact as well. So I remember even on that contact being the first, I remember one of the first sort of lines coming through the radio and stuff was man down, and so it was like a real, right, it's all going happen, it's all going down now, everything's happening at once, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just the pressure of it as such, it was heavy for the first one, like.
Yeah. And then it's just happened day after day after day, going forward.
Yeah, yeah. Not like there was days where you didn't get stuff. Like I'm not gonna say it was every day for 7 months because it really wasn't. But there was days where you maybe didn't get very much, but they were easily outweighed by the days where you did.
Yeah.
So they were like you were sort of pushing yourself on the days that did, to the point where you were coming in. You'll know yourself. You were coming in. You were throwing the kit down, throwing your body armor off, and you didn't even make it to your bed space. You were just falling asleep on your kit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or getting the call to go back out again.
Yeah.
Which is again, the lack of sleep all plays into the whole.
Then your
whole
stags
challenge.
and everything on top of that as well, because it's not as simple as, oh, hey, they had a big busy day, we'll just not give them a job. Your job still has to continue. Everything has to keep going.
And in terms of again, you're still young at this stage, so again, reiterate, you've kind of gone from school to recruit training, pre-deployment training, and now here you are in the middle of combat on a regular basis, if not daily, certainly a regular basis.
Yeah.
Was there times you almost pinched yourself? Is this real? You referred earlier to feeling like a game. I know what you mean by that. It's almost like you're just a player in a wider game. What was it like trying to compute that as a relatively young person, particularly when maybe colleagues were getting injured and things like that?
Yeah, there was a few times where you sort of think, like, I remember, it's like, you maybe get what I'm saying, but there was like times where everything sort of seemed like it was rolling really slow. Like it was like nearly like a slow motion type of thing, where life had slowed right down to the point where your brain's going that active that you're like, nearly felt like slow mo, especially one of the times, and that especially that I'll always go back to that first week one, where the first initial sort of like man down as such, or like one of the guys that was meant to help the guy with me, he froze up, and I had to run across about one ground to get one of the guys, and you could see the rounds sort of pinging off the ground in front of you, and I can remember like that feeling like slow motion, like my legs were moving full speed, but to me it felt like I was going really slow, even though I wasn't. I knew I was sprinting across the gap, but
Yeah.
like because it was so close, you the moments where your brain could turn around and go, "This is going to hurt." Like you were expecting something to happen, so
Yeah.
your brain kicked into overdrive to the point where you were going, well, this is going to hurt and it's probably going to burn, and like you were overthinking what might happen next, if that makes sense. So it used to slow the whole world down for you for a minute.
Yeah. That's an interesting way of describing it. And yeah, others will describe it something similar.
Yeah.
I suppose your awareness is heightened, your adrenaline's pumping,
Yeah.
and the mind obviously reacts in the way it reacts to the circumstances.
Yeah.
And it's interesting you said earlier about your training kicking in.
Yeah, yeah.
That then wasn't a thought process of this is how I have to react to incoming fire. The training you've received, you find just took over after that split second in terms of what to do.
As you know yourself, anybody that's been in the military knows they drill you. It's drilled into your head to the point where they want you to know it off the top of your head.
Yeah.
You react, no, like, and it is constantly pressed and asked, and
Yeah.
so that it is that reaction. Like obviously being bit of an older fella now, I sort of understand that a lot of it's like installed into your brain. It's not just revised into it.
It becomes habitual.
Yeah.
So if you do something long enough, usually 30 days would be, do anything for 30 days,
Yeah.
becomes a habit.
Yeah.
So the repetitive training on the drills, weapon
Programmed
handling, tactics, it becomes programmed.
Yeah.
Emotion and decision making is removed from the process.
Yeah.
A certain thing happens, rounds coming down, you just
react.
Training, that program kicks in, So we want to get obviously to post service, because again our podcast is very much about once a warrior, but then life beyond the uniform. So I know obviously your story, post, you through a challenging and a difficult time on leaving the military. Was there anything during the tour? I know obviously it was a very challenging tour overall. Was there any one incident that you feel really you found difficult to cope with when you look back, or was it just the accumulation of 6.5 months of that environment?
Yeah, well, like, to be honest, in my case, it was a mixture of everything. I think to go from, as you said earlier, being so young, coming out of school, going into the military, having a very little soak period, going straight to war, and then obviously the 7 months, friends getting injured, people getting killed and stuff like that on the tour. Like a few of the guys that were killed, I knew and I was friends with. I wasn't majorly like, they were maybe from different companies and stuff, but we'd got on in our own way and in the background. And then to come back and sort of re-gel in and understand that that guy's not going to be in enough anymore, and and even like some of the guys that were injured not being there anymore because they were maybe not be able to do their job anymore, or and just like the whole overall thing, I think was the thing that put me up, to be honest, was the fact that um I don't mean this maybe as like, there's a lot of guys that were there at that age and were, but I don't think I was old enough to understand exactly what had happened to me either.
Yeah.
I was still a child
Yeah.
trying
No, and
to trying to work through an
yeah,
adult's game.
yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
And adults in the military for decades don't experience what you experienced. Obviously there were a lot of tough tours in Afghanistan. I did Iraq in '04. I mean, it wasn't anything as difficult as what people went through in Afghanistan.
I think it's hard
It had
because
its unique environments, but in terms of that repetitive combat scenario, there weren't that many people in Iraq experience what happened in Afghanistan.
I think it was hard as well, and maybe it's just me, but it's easy to talk around the subject, but it's not easy to talk about the subject. So like with Afghan in general, it's easy to go over some days, but it's not easy to delve into the worst days.
Hmm.
And I think even for a lot of people watching this, they'll be sitting in the house thinking exactly the same thing. Like it's easy to sit and talk about something light, but whenever you bring up something heavy, you can even see the people around you's eyes changing to the subject you're talking about.
Yeah.
And for a lot, like whenever I came home, I was quite easy to talk about things, but like life experience, watching other people even react to the things you were talking about, put you off telling that story again.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
No, that's fair. So you obviously then, how long after coming back from Harry 13 did you leave the military?
um, so it would have been about 2 years, just between a year and a half and 2 years,
Okay.
because whenever I did come back, I didn't feel injured at the time. I just felt tired.
Hmm.
And then obviously I went on my rest to go and visit people, and like the first sign of me having any sort of post-traumatic stress disorder came out in that rest was like going into a big shopping centre, which was Iceland, and somebody slamming a fridge, and I took a knee in the middle of the shopping centre and sort of laughed it off because I was like, oh, that was silly. I
Hmm.
shouldn't have, I shouldn't have done that, but it's because I'm only home. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like waking up maybe a couple of weeks later and panicking because I couldn't find my rifle in a house that I wasn't meant to have it in. Do you know what I mean?
Hmm.
And like wee tiny telltale signs came out whenever I came back, but I never picked up on them until after that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And then bit by bit, that's getting
It just
PTSD
got
out again.
worse. Yeah.
It, I suppose only those that have been there kind of easily identify with that. I know, I was probably quite fortunate. I was sort of 2IC of a company, so a lot of my time was spent, behind the wire, obviously sort of doing the ops and liaison with brigade, etc. Um, Although we did have a kind of a rule that once a week everyone had to get out on the ground. But I know some of our guys that come back from Basra, the one thing that triggered them wasn't so much the loud noises, but it was traffic. They began out of Basra in their escort duty,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then heading through, say, the markets in Basra, which was well known as a difficult, street road. Numerous soldiers lost their lives in that stretch. So the fear when you get caught in traffic, when
Yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
sitting duck, and when you had to
Mine was people too, so like large groups of people, because
Yeah.
obviously where I was based in Afghan was more like a rural area, so the only people you seen were like walking along the roads or maybe in the calle or things like that. So like I got uncomfortable with like large groups of people through the being there. So
Yeah.
like I remember going to Edinburgh to visit somebody at a point and walking out of the train station and it just being a really busy time, and I freaked out. I didn't know what to do. There was too many people, so I remember climbing up on a wall that was higher than everybody just so I could see around me and see,
Just to
you
see
know,
what.
and
And that's how you dealt
that
with
was
that.
that
So
fear.
you obviously have got the point where you realize something's not right here. So
Yeah.
how did you feel the military system looked after you, or maybe didn't in that scenario? So
Well,
did that PTSD sort of kick in after you left the military, or was it while you were
no,
still in the military?
it was just near the end of being in the military
Okay.
whenever I addressed it by obviously going to the med center and
Okay.
saying to the guys, look, something's not right here. My head's not great, and I'd signed off by that stage and wanted to get out
Right.
because it just wasn't making sense for me anymore to be
Yeah.
there. And I think it was obviously that ultimate fear of I'm not coping with what just happened. So what happens if I go back? Do you know what I mean? So I remember saying to them like, basically, this is pretty mad, but I told them at the time like, let me out, or the next time I go to a range or get a rifle in my hand, you'll no longer have the choice to let me out. Do you know what I mean?
But
Because
that's how you felt.
yeah,
That was your.
yeah, I wanted the stuff that was happening to me to stop, and at the time I didn't know how to stop it. So I was challenged as being so young of like, if it just stops, I'll be okay. And then there's only two ways to make it stop. One is to get help and figure it out, which is obviously to me at the time was like, that's impossible. There's nobody's going to be able to unwrite what I've just done in my own head. Do you know what I mean? And then the other one was to stop it, and that was a thought that popped in over the years loads of times. Do you know what I
Right.
mean? But that was the first time I'd felt like that, if that makes sense.
Right. And then when you then actually did leave, and we have this term transition, which is for someone who's been serving to then go back into civilian, did you feel there was adequate support for you in your condition, or did you feel a little bit like I'm not getting the help that I need?
I'm not going to lie. At the time, I didn't think there was any, um, because I obviously didn't know of any. Um, so my only support at the time was to have a beer or go for a drink, or to try and numb the thoughts and feelings that were going on with me. So it started off with a beer, and then after time it was drug related, and and something that could mask all the symptoms I was going through, which obviously I done for 9 years, was
Really as
masking.
long as that.
Yeah, yeah.
So literally it was the trying to cope, and the only way you felt you could cope was to,
To get
if you
drunk
like, take that
or
time
to do
away out of your
something
head,
else.
drunk, drugs.
Yeah, yeah. Like I was socially awkward, so it was easy just to sit and have a beer, because then I could be social and I could switch off what was going on inside my head and just focus on the room at the time, or and then obviously you think that's helping until you sober up and it all comes back,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And for me, it was easier just to get drunk again than it was
yeah.
to deal with it
And
that
then you're in
day.
this spiral then
And
of
100%,
you
yeah,
know, you're every time you're kind of conscious again, facing the, let's call them inner demons,
yeah,
the pressures, the challenges. The easy option is just to go
do it again,
drink, drugs,
yeah,
have that short term relief again.
yeah. And it
Yeah.
was like it became a vice, obviously, of after a while one stopped working, so try a different thing. I'll try a
And would
different
they
thing.
be like for the harder solutions then each time? Because it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah. Well, at the start, it was like maybe like, and I think I've heard a lot of guys going through like maybe like thinking having a smoke of something might
mm,
help, and then obviously it goes down to like eventually taking cocaine and like just finding a harder substance to try and fix
yeah,
the thought pattern. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. When then did it change for you? When did you realize you could, there was an alternative to that cycle?
So eventually I found out about other places that could help, like the likes of like there was a charity called Waves, and there was other charities out there which I was was sort of getting told over time that they were there, and at the time I didn't really want the help because I was still stuck in this like repetitive pattern of self-help that was going wrong. And then I remember sort of like one day just waking up and going, and it sounds maybe it's like a stage of maturity, but I remember a day just waking up going, I need to do something proper now because I can't keep doing this. I was going, I'm going to end up dead doing this, you know. And I think there was like a slight want for that too.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? There was to just keep going until it all stopped. And then reaching out to the first charity was a charity called Waves, which were really good with me. They put me into counselling and things like that. And even whenever I messed up the first row of counselling, they still sort of kept talking to me and brought me back for the second go of it, where I actually managed to get so many weeks through, and they continued on. And then obviously once I felt like I could sort of talk, then I started to approach the military ones that I've been finding out about.
yeah. And who was that then, or who did you come in contact with then?
First person I spoke to was a guy called Michael Donaldson from Inspire, and I remember walking into his room, and it was like a wee pokey place, and I didn't feel comfortable straight away, because of just the way he was at one side of it and I was at the other, and like it just felt like I was being channeled.
Something.
Yeah. So, but that guy was amazing. Like the minute he started talking, he talked about his service and like made you feel comfortable at the fact that you were sitting with somebody else from the uniform that could sort of have a rough understanding of what you've been through.
Yeah, I know Michael. I'm fortunate to deal with Michael through this role as a Veterans Commissioner. In fact, just last Thursday, Rachel from the office and myself were up at Muirbrick Lodge, which was the last in the roadmap to recovery session. It was a 2-year session, and I made the point of mentioning how I think Michael is just incredible. Yes, he served, but his passion to help those in need is phenomenal.
I remember that one you're talking about. I remember helping him set it up at the place in Lauren as well. And
There were some people from Lauren, I think, on that. They're from different parts of
the amount of people he can pull in and actually help
but
is
also he
is
gets
great.
it. He
Yeah,
absolutely
yeah.
understands it. So you Inspire with Michael, and then
Combat Stress was the next
by
one.
Stress as well. Okay, again, a very important charity that does such a great work. And did they at least help? Did they manage to break the cycle for you and put you on the right route?
Yeah. So they helped me get like diagnosed for a start, which was massive for me because obviously I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't have like a way of proving it or saying. So a lot of the time it was just me overreacting to things in people's eyes and stuff, and it was actually me going through something and not having a way of telling somebody this is what it is. So a lot of people just look at you like you're damaged or something, and especially whenever it comes across as like anger or things that most people don't understand, they look at it and just go, he's a grumpy sort of person, or he's. Whereas I remember breaking down whenever I got my diagnosis and like feeling like crying my eyes out and just being like thanking the person for diagnosing me with something.
Did that give you some clarity?
It gave
That actually
me
there was
it gave me a
you
way
could
to
actually
prove,
point
yeah.
to the
It made me be able to show people with that paper that says, look, it's not just me being grumpy, like there's something else going on here, like, do you know what I mean? But like whenever people aren't from that background or haven't been there or understand it, they'll never look at 9 years ago and go, ah, well, this guy's obviously still going through something from then. They,
and understand
they
it.
don't look at it that way. They look at it as what they're dealing with you that day. Do you know what I mean?
No, absolutely. So it obviously took time to get into the military support system, but once you got there,
Oh yeah, once
you found that it definitely helped. It was there. They understood
yeah,
you, and
it just wasn't publicized enough for me at that age. I missed it completely.
see,
But once
that's massive for our office
yeah,
because that's the bit we have to try and fix. Some people go through the military, go through experience that you've gone through, and cope okay with it, and they just get on with their lives and move into jobs, contribute positively to society. But for those that go through the journey that you walked, we cannot allow there to be that gap of I need help. Where do I go to get the help? That is so, so important.
Yeah, and there was a massive gap. Like whenever I done other things after that to try and like help out, I remember thinking in my head that I wanted to be the bridge that was able to show them from the side where you don't know to the side where there's loads. You just have to look for it. Do you know what I mean? But somebody going through a terrible time is not going to go on the internet and Google how to get better.
Yeah, yeah,
You
no,
know,
absolutely.
or listen to like BFBS radio whenever the last thing they want to do is listen to military shit. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
no,
Because
100%. You know, and I
you
think
know,
what's interesting about your story, Anthony, is that you've obviously been through the experience you've been through. You know, Harry 13, well known as a very difficult tour. You're a young fella. You see a lot of things that young fellas shouldn't see in life. You know, but that was the path you chose, taking the Queen shilling, the old saying, and that all goes with it. You then had your difficult period of trying to deal with that. What I like about your story is that you've kind of turned it around to a positive, which actually brings us on then as we sort of come near the end of the podcast to your cold water experience.
yeah.
So one of the things that helped you, um, if you like, deal with your situation or give you a I'm trying to think the right phrase, give you clarity, if you like, in a way forward, was the whole experience of cold water. So how did that come about in terms of
Well,
first being introduced to that?
it came about like off the back talk of what the GP was trying to do at the time. So I was going to a GP and they were trying to medicate me, and every time I mentioned my mental health, that was the line everybody wanted to go down was medicate me. And obviously I have children and stuff, so coming from a background of drinking drugs and I didn't want any medication. I didn't want more drugs to make me feel better. Do you know what I mean? So they like started heavily medicate me to the point where my emotions weren't showing. And for me, I couldn't do that. I needed to be able to show happiness as well as not be able to show cross. Do you know what I mean? So I was speaking to a friend of mine, and he had mentioned how he does this water thing. And I was like, well, you need to tell me what it is. And he goes, we'll go down to the beach at like silly o'clock and jump in the sea. And I was like, that
It sounds obvious, doesn't it?
sounds terrible, to be honest. And he was like, no, it's really good. It makes you feel good. And I was like, right, what temperature is it? And he was like, really cold. And I was like, well, no, it sounds even worse now, to be totally honest with you. So he kept at me and was like, look, come on, try it. Just do it once. I'm telling you. And he had his own mental health problems too. And it wasn't from the military, it was from other stuff. And he was swearing by this thing. And I kept ducking out and trying not to do it. And one of the days he rung me and was like, look, I'm going to the sea in 10 minutes. You're 10 minutes away. Just come, try it. And I was like, right, okay. So I got down. I was obviously like 5 minutes late because I was still putting it off. And by the time I got down, he was in the water,
Right.
which sort of helped, I think, for me to actually get around to doing it. Because if he hadn't been in the water, I'd have talked myself out of it and told him no and left. But because he was in the water, I just stripped off all right down to my shorts and just dived in. And I remember straight away thinking to myself, what are you doing? Like, it's freezing in here, like, stop it. And every part of me was cold. It felt like somebody was stabbing me repeatedly with knives. I just didn't enjoy it at all.
Oh.
For about the first 90 seconds. And then I got like this, like, I was able to breathe again. And I never looked at the beach that I was on. Like, I grew up on it, but I never looked at the beach that I was on so clearly. And like, I took in the beauty of the area, which is somewhere I've been my entire life, and never looked at it the same way. And I remember coming out and like laughing and carrying on with the guy and like just feeling really good. Like, and then like, as I say, it was really early in the morning too, so it gave me like I was awake. I wasn't like hanging the way I normally would have been every day, and like down. I felt great. I felt happy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. No, no. I mean, I've been involved in Irish League football, so I'm involved in Loughgall, and we have an ice bath in the first team dressing room. So I've looked a bit into it in the past, so that Andrew Huberman
Like,
some
I
stuff on it.
dived into it after that. So
You
obviously
started. So you look at
I started looking into
at the Hoffman.
what it was doing for you. So I delved into the science behind it as such, and it is being proven. There's a lady from Canada at the minute that's proven everything to do with it. So she is.
Yeah.
She's doing like scientific tests to show exactly what it does and why it's doing that.
Yeah.
And it's all out there. The information's out there for anybody that searches for it. The 90 seconds that I mentioned before is your body's fight or flight, which
Yeah.
is kicking in, going either keep going or don't do it.
Yeah.
you know, and then like after that 90 seconds, everybody regulates,
Yeah.
you know, unless obviously you've got like a heart problem or something or things like that.
But for the average person,
And your GP can tell you if it's safe to do, so you just go and ask them, and if they say, look, you're all right to go and do that, I recommend everybody tries it once, like, you know.
No, I agree. Last Christmas, my youngest boy got me an ice bath for Christmas, so I would do
Do it regular.
not always putting loads of ice in, but certainly
Yeah.
cold water most mornings.
It doesn't need to
I'd go and
be,
sit
it
in it
doesn't
for
need
4 or
to
5
be
minutes. So
like a
it is
bucket of
amazing.
ice. It
Yeah,
just
it
needs to be cold.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And like, there's, even with the proving of it now, like, there's a very little difference between warm and cold, effectively, for like muscle repair and things like that.
Yeah.
But whenever it comes to like the mental health side of it and the benefits from it, the cold seems to do better that way,
Yeah.
for the fact that it's a challenge every day. Do you know what I
It's a
mean?
challenge, but also there's a like a mental reset.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
so I
yeah.
mean, you know, again, for the football background, it's obvious if you condense the muscles in cold, you're going to squeeze out the lactic acid. That's common sense.
Oh,
So
100%.
you
Yeah,
can understand how, for someone who's been training heavily, there's going to be a benefit to that.
yeah,
As you say, that discipline of doing it first and foremost. You know, committed to do it. I'm going to get in. But then just that mental reset, and then you're into, as you say, the science of it all, which we haven't time to go into today. But
no.
Andrew Huberman's got some brilliant stuff.
Or Wim
Hoffman, the ice
Hof. Yeah,
Viking,
yeah,
all those guys have got some incredible insights into it. You
yeah.
know, so you're now using that as a means to help
Yeah,
others.
yeah, so pretty much I started a group called the Cold Water Warriors, which is on Facebook if anybody would be interested to even try it. So while I was doing the cold water, I thought I'll do this for charity. There's bound to be, you know, something that I can do with this. So I done it for like 300 odd days back to back and recorded every single one of them, so that I could prove that I was going in every day and I wasn't, no, so that whenever they were donating their money, there was proof there to what they were donating to.
Yeah.
And I started that off and continued it on. It worked out at like £3,000 we raised for two charities that were local, which was Men's Alliance and the Women's Aid. So it was people from domestic violence, but also hit mental health as well. And we managed to raise money for them. But in doing so, with the videos and stuff, people started to message me and was like, can I come out and try this? And obviously some of them were veteran background, some of them were civilian background, and I just didn't discriminate. I was like, look, if you want to come try and see how you go on. And walked them like out of like, I think I put like 40 people in the water over that space of time, and like some of them I walked in hand with and talked them through it. Other ones just dived in head first and never thought twice about it,
So,
you
so
know.
you've literally gone, this is we come to the conclusion, you've literally gone from a dark place after coming out of the military, seeing what you've seen, and that's perfectly understandable. You ended up where you ended up, to now you're actually the one that's helping other people who
Yep.
perhaps are going through some of the things you went through, and you're literally preventing others from their situations being worse by showing them a path that can actually help them in their situation.
So it's just more like signposting I do. It's like bringing them in, having a quick chat with them, because I'm not qualified to help anybody. I'm still trying to help myself.
Yeah.
So
But that's obviously part of helping yourself.
yeah, 100% that is.
Them, yeah.
But it's just to get them feeling like there's somewhere they feel that they're a part of, and then get them onto the people that can actually do something to help them.
Yeah. I'm half laughing to myself because I can just see Rachel out of the corner of my eye in the background here. And of course, one of the things as Veterans Commissioner you do is you go along and go with some of the people that we meet. So maybe Andy Allen going out with
Yeah.
maybe veterans living homeless, and going and partaking in various events. And I can just see Rachel putting a wee note in the diary here, send David to meet Anthony, to go and swim in Ballygally.
I'll have to
That's coming down the line. That's going to be a...
see whenever it comes to stuff like that. Yeah, 100%. But we've got to go no for that one because it's colder.
Thanks very much. You've literally just inspired me there. So, but no, that's me something that we'll have to take up.
No,
with you, Alan. That'll
definitely,
be definitely a
definitely.
good experience. So, listen, it's been fantastic to hear your story. I love the fact you're so honest. You know, you tell your story. It's your story. It's unique to you. Probably unfortunately not completely unique in the sense that many soldiers knows the military have had similar experiences. But the fact you've been willing to come on our podcast, this is exactly what we're trying to do, is let veterans tell their story, you know, warts and all said at the start, because that's your story. So really appreciate you coming in. And just as the Veterans Commissioner for Northern Ireland on behalf of the office, I want to thank you for your service, and thank you for coming in today to to speak to us.
Same
Thank
to
you
you.
very much, Anthony.
Thank you
Appreciate
for
that.
having me as well.
No problem.